Hey guys, Rebel Engine 95, recording live from your local county prison cell. Trying to do this a little earlier while the lights are still good. And yeah, so as I've mentioned, been in a little bit of a rut with battles. So now I'm going to my kind of reserve list of fights that I hadn't really thought too much about. And to be honest, I'm just gonna kind of wing this with the knowledge that I have because I don't really feel like doing too much research on this. But it shouldn't be that necessary because the fight I'm bringing you today is Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes from Marvel, versus Charlie Nash or Nash I believe, well, we'll get into that in a second, but yeah, Nash or Charlie Nash from a Street Fighter, right? And yeah, this would be like I wanted, and I even did an episode about Red Hood versus Winter Soldier. So that was the fight that was, I think, the best fight for both of them. But that doesn't mean we can't have other ones. That doesn't mean other ones aren't also good. And this is one of those cases. I think this might be. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, no, that is wrong. I was gonna say that this might be the first time I do a an episode of a character that like an episode with a character that's already been in a death battle, but that's just not true. I've done Boba Fett and Deathstroke, both of which were in death battles. Did I do? I think I did Samus and Master Chief like a decade ago, and both of those had been in death battle. Both of those were in death battles. So yeah, that's just not true. But I don't do it very often, and I think this is a very good alt episode for Bucky, honestly. So going into it, we know Bucky Barnes because he's been in a death battle. And he is Bucky was the former sidekick of Captain America, trained by the British Royal Marines, and brought in. He was an American trained by the British Royal Marines specifically, and accidentally discovered Cap's secret identity, and Cap brought him on as a sidekick. And that was, the role he played until Captain America and Bucky went down fell into the ice and were, never heard from again until Bucky Barnes. Now, some backstories differ, but the one that I think is the most consistent and the one that makes the most sense, honestly, is that he was found by Soviet submarines and his body preserved in the ice, and they brought him back from the brink of death, and somehow his brain activity, I guess, was still operating, and basically programmed him to be the perfect killer. And since then, and his moniker being the Winter Soldier. He's had, feuds with Cap. He's more recently teamed up with Cap. And he even became Captain America at one point. So yeah, but very, very good credentials for this character. We know that he is both with his British Marines training and his kind of like Spetsnaz training that he got from the Soviet Union. He's become a tremendous killing machine. And the other part of that is because the only part of his body that didn't survive the ice was his arm, which was then replaced by a cybernetic metal arm. So, and this thing gives him incredible super strength. It's able to, it's able to like crush a human head. It's great. Now, and he has an affinity for firearms and knives and all those other things as well due to his training. But yeah, no, he's a formidable opponent. But then again, so is his opponent here, Charlie Nash. So Charlie Nash was Guile's mentor / partner in the Air Force, and he was kind of the reason Guile has this giant manhunt for Shadaloo, aside for Bison being the, like, most wanted criminal on the world, on the planet. But he's also looking for, he's looking to avenge his supposedly dead partner, Charlie. Charlie is the one who, I believe Charlie invented the sonic boom and the flash kick. So Charlie basically invented Guile's moveset and taught it to Guile. Guile, in many cases, improved upon it. For instance, I believe there's a Street Fighter comic where Guile gets like way more height on his flash kick than Charlie does, and he says it's like a military secret. So at least Guile's probably perfected or evolved the flash kick more than Charlie did, but Charlie seemingly has a lot more proficiency with the sonic boom because he can do them one-handed, which is, which is really a big deal, in a hand-to-hand fighting situation, I guess. But is it really going to be hand-to-hand if you're throwing projectiles at each other? And as we know, the sonic boom is essentially, I guess it's not, is it ever really described in Street Fighter? I think it's supposed to be like what the name implies. He's moving so quickly that he creates a rift in the air. But it is kind of like an energy attack, sort of, but I think it's meant to actually be a sonic boom. I'm not sure. But as we said, Charlie is the reason Guile is on this mission, and that is because Charlie, in an attempt to hunt down Bison by himself, goes missing, and we later discover that Charlie was basically kidnapped and infused with cybernetics and psycho power and brainwashed to be one of Bison's many brainwashed assassins, alongside what's her name, the one that looks like Cammy, the doll, any of the dolls, I guess. Yeah, alongside them, he became one of Bison's puppets and had been led on many assassination missions until he was led to assassinate Chun-Li and Guile, and then he broke out of his brainwashing and ends up sacrificing himself in an attempt to take out Bison once and for all again. And that's the last we hear from him canonically. But after receiving this upgrade from Bison, like I said, the cybernetics and the shadow and the psycho powers, the guy went from, esteemed, formidable military Air Force veteran to absolute nightmare on in a fight. This guy gained teleportation. He gained the ability to sustain his sonic booms like in midair, to even like add them to the forces of his punches and kicks. He's able to pretty much, with the teleportation, it's not a real teleportation. It's almost like he turns into like a shadow kind of, and it's similar to Bison's like slide teleportation. Yeah, which basically just lets him evade any oncoming attack. It basically makes him like intangible for a second, and he evades any oncoming attack, and he can just move effortlessly behind you almost instantaneously. And then we've got the cybernetics to take into account, which are likely giving him I would imagine they're giving him enhanced strength and durability. Though it's not like specifically noted, I don't think. So yeah, with that, the guy is an actual just monster. He's a Frankenstein with a military background, and magic. So yeah, so how do I see this fight going? Well, we can't ignore the existence of guns in this fight, I don't think. However, we see that guns in the Street Fighter universe have a very bad success rate. Characters like Ryu are shown able to dodge bullets, and if Charlie can create a sonic boom, that would mean that his movement speed would have to be... Now, is that necessarily his like running speed? Not necessarily. His movement speed from a standing position would have to be, faster than sound. Which would definitely give him a that would give him the ability to dodge bullets and everything. But at the same time, we also just see characters get shot in Street Fighter, and they don't really seem to mind. So the scaling seems to be a little bit above. It seems to be a little bit above simple bullets. That being said, Bucky, as a hand-to-hand fighter, is probably. If I had to give the hand-to-hand, if I had to give one an advantage, I would say Bucky's probably the better fighter. And, that metal arm is incredibly deadly, and he'd probably just be able to win the fight if he got a hold of Nash. But that's kind of the situation I'm talking about here. With Nash having things like essentially teleportation, light, being able to move at sonic speeds, having projectiles that he can launch at you. Like, yeah, they're not quite bullets, but, having like projectiles he can launch at you. Being able to jump 10 plus feet in the air from a standing position, being able to, with all that mobility and all that diversity of movement, I think Bucky's going to have a hard time hitting him. Now, don't get me wrong, Bucky's been in the fray with superpowered opponents before. Hell, he's fought Cap, who is literally just superhuman and can run, what he can run, like 40 miles an hour or something. Not really a fair comparison to something like, dodging bullets, but yeah, that's pretty much where I'm putting this. This is, I think that Nash, but then again, do I see Nash being able to kill Bucky? Well, if sonic booms are to be taken literally, and they're basically just like his movement speed is generating a rift in the air, I'd probably say there's not much defending against that, and that is likely something that's, deadly, but that's a tough one, because, like, on one hand, like, yeah, Charlie has every means to avoid getting killed by Winter Soldier, but does it work the other way around? Also, both of these characters have been saved from death. So, similar to the Red Hood versus Winter Soldier thing, it's like, that's not really an in-fight factor, but, well, I can't really come up with a convincing argument to the contrary, so I guess I'm going to go with Nash here. Yeah, I think Charlie's probably got this. On the basis, like, hand-to-hand, I'd probably give it to Bucky. Especially because Bucky has, decades more experience. Now, the Winter Soldier was always kind of brought out and then put in cryosleep. That's how he stayed young for like decades. He was, he was put under and then brought out and then put under and brought out, so he maintained his age. But he still has, I believe, a lot more missions under his belt than Charlie does. So I would give the experience factor to him. But just in terms of, like, just the range of abilities, even though Charlie doesn't have like a gun or anything on him, just the range of abilities I think is probably going to be the reason that Charlie takes this. But yeah, not a bad fight, I have to admit. I think this is probably like the second best Winter Soldier fight, aside from the one we got. And I don't know if there's a good Charlie fight, so that's kind of the reason I picked this. So anyway, but yeah, that's this week's episode, Rebel Engine 95. See ya.